Hello and welcome back to Best in UC TV. I'm your host, Heather Clancy. And we've talked with several organizations already about education opportunities with video conferencing, but I'm going to talk to a little bit of a different organization today. We've talked to a couple of elementary schools. We're going to talk to the higher education world today. I have with me Tom Umphress. He is the Information Services Director at Globe University. It's a network of about five state network of schools and organizations dedicated to higher education in Minnesota, Wisconsin, South Dakota, Idaho, and Utah. Tom, welcome to Best in UC TV.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And I'm very glad you're speaking with us today because I'm particularly fascinated by the role of video in education because I think there's so much that can be done with technology. But I want to start at the beginning because I know you've been doing this about 9 months and you had some ideas in mind about how you wanted to bring video into the classroom, but you started with an administrative case in order to get this thing inside. So tell us a little bit about what you're using and how it came to start at Globe.
Okay. We did have our desires first on the classroom side, but we were probably having a little more trouble coming up with the justifications besides, hey, we think this is a great idea and this is some cool technology we want to play with. And on our corporate or the staff side of the environment, having the 5-state region that you mentioned there, we have training for our new admissions representatives done in a central location here in Minnesota. And what we used to do is we'd fly people in from out of state for a 3-week training class once they were hired, and that had a hard dollar amount that went with it. So we had the airfare, we had the lodging, we had the per diems per day and such. So it was an easier tackle there. We could come up with, here's what we spend per person, here's how many people we're roughly bringing in today, here's what the cost of implementing the system is from a hard cost, and we were able to get this set up in a few locations at the moment. I still see that expanding as well because we're starting to realize the benefits to the employees as well.
Right.
We hire this new person, we take them out of their home for 3 weeks, they're nervous about this new job and all this other stuff, and they can't, tell their spouse or whatever how their day's going very easily. So
you
we've
got
seen
it
the great
in.
benefit. Yes.
So you got it in, and then, actually I think you had an ulterior motive. You knew that the nursing school was very interested in some sort of video technology. Tell us how you were able to enable the nursing educators to use the video in a very different way.
Okay. Yeah, we have a nursing program, and in our nursing program, we have a couple simulation labs at one campus. We've got another campus with the same thing, and they have these high-fidelity mannequins that, breathe and have heart rates and have fluids that flow through them and all this other stuff. And the nursing students will be given a simulation task they've got to accomplish, and we have a control room that one of the instructors will sit in and cause the mannequin to have different situations to happen. And we wanted to be able to record that because nursing has got a very physical aspect to it as well, all the way from, are you taking their heart rates correctly? Are you giving them injections correctly? But also to the bedside manner. And in the past, it would be an instructor basically taking notes, writing down what they thought the students did well, did poorly, could use work, or what they needed more training on. And now we're able to capture all of that through a unique implementation of a video conferencing system and tying it in with a video recording system in the back end. And we can capture those simulation environments, both with the video, and we also capture through the presentation input of the video conferencing the vitals, the display of the mannequin, and we can play that back in the classroom with the students and show them what they were doing a great job at, where we still need to do a little more work, and that type of thing. It also allows for outside review of the students as they're going through their credentialing process.
So actually, ironically, that is the same technology that we're using to record this session right now. I'm in Hackensack, New Jersey. You're in Minnesota, and we're able to have this conversation for the site that way, the same way, the LifeSize technology. So,
correct.
okay, so you got the cost justification, then you were able to bring it into this one classroom setting. What other things are you looking at? What other applications are you using or thinking about for the educational part of your organization?
Yeah, we are in the midst of formalizing our pilot of connecting some classrooms together for actual student use, so we can have an instructor be at one location but have students both in their local classroom and in a remote classroom. And this will help us to run classes that might have a lower enrollment at some of our further outreaching campuses that don't have as much population to draw from. And it allows the students to be able to continue through their program without us having to readjust their schedules around on them. So it's a good customer service focus there, deliver the students the classes they want to take when they want to take them versus when you get enough students queued up to take that class. So that's the one we're going to be launching.
You have 11 endpoints right now?
We have 11 endpoints right now, yes.
And so you're gradually adding to the implementation that you started.
Correct. Like I said, for this classroom piece, we're going to pilot with just 2 locations for this one quarter. So that's going to be 2 more endpoints that we add in. And we're any day now going to have to go and implement a bridge as well to allow greater cross connectivity.
All right, tell me about that.
Yeah, most of the endpoints, it depends on which endpoint you buy. There's different ones out there. The lower price point ones are point-to-point units. You can buy higher end units that will have a MCU bridge built into them that can connect 4 or 8 different systems together, but those units have to be involved in the call. So you can't connect, A and B without C unless you use a bridge. And a bridge is just a centralized device that your single point-to-point units would call, and the bridge does the connecting of multiple parties together. So I foresee that happening by the end of the year, if not in the first half of the year.
Are you going to need to do any network upgrades or address your bandwidth to be supportive of this?
Yep. We are going to make some adjustments there. It was kind of humorous, actually. I had to get off the phone with him to answer this call, or our interview here. I was talking to our network engineer on some of the QoS implementations we need to make, and he had just returned from a LifeSize presentation from a vendor out where he was at. So we are going to work on the QoS piece. We've been pretty successful so far. We run into an occasional glitch on audio every once in a while. The video side seems to stay up just fine, but when we get congested network traffic, we do lose audio occasionally, and we know that we can resolve that by implementing QoS. And the units are built to support it very well. It's just something we've got to implement with the network team.
You mentioned to me before we initiated this recording that technology isn't necessarily the biggest challenge with something like this. It's the kind of people thing. And you and I are both trying to stay focused on the camera, so we're looking at the right camera angle. I've looked aside a couple times. I've tripped over what you're saying a couple times. So this is not easy culturally. You have to wait sometimes, to speak before someone else does, just because you're not necessarily looking at them. So tell me about how you've addressed that, or what skills do you think that your instructors need to be able to do this? Is everyone going to be able to do this? And if the answer is yes, what are you going to have to do to help them get there?
Yeah, I think that everyone can do this, but one of the big things that we run into is just people, like you mentioned. It's a people thing, and we all know that when we pull out a camera in a room at a party or everything, some people jump in front of the camera and other people want to go hide and don't take pictures of me. And adding video into the equation has that same effect on people. But I have people today that get that camera off of me who are like telling other people, oh, you just get used to it. It's fine. But one of the benefits, you mentioned we talk over each other a little bit, but it's just exponentially better than a conference call because we can see we're doing it. Or I can raise my hand and say, hey, I have something to say. I want to inject it in. And I've been on conference calls where you spend about 7 minutes trying to find a spot where you can inject a comment into that conversation. So video, I think, is a tremendous leap over just the audio, and communication is way more than verbal. Communication is body language and all these other things. So in the classroom environment, when we want to connect, different classrooms together, you need to be able to see if the student is got that facial expression of I get it, or okay, I'm confused and not getting that, and video allows that to happen. But as far as skill sets, I think anybody can do it, but they got to get comfortable with it. And I think that in my times of dealing with this, I've been dealing with the video stuff for 9 months to a year now, but I've been dealing with distance learning and remote learning through like WebEx and Illuminate and different programs for probably about 4 years now. And I would say that the skill set required from an instructor or teacher standpoint is really not much different than the skill sets that a good teacher or instructor has. The ones that will engage the different students and touch base with them sporadically and make sure that they're still out there. Some of them you need to talk to and ask questions because they just need to answer questions. Some of them you just need to touch and say, yep, I still you're there and I still care about you, but I know you don't like to talk in front of audiences. Repeating questions sporadically, making sure you do stuff on camera. If you're going to be, doing some sort of presentation or whiteboarding, you need to make sure you use the electronic whiteboard technology that'll pass through to the other side, or at least get the camera to focus on a whiteboard. Right. But I prefer the electronic transfer because then it shows full screen for them on their side. Mm-hmm. So I think a good teacher makes a good video presenter.
Okay. So one thing you told me that you didn't think about ahead of time, or that not as much as you might have needed, is lighting, right? We were commenting on the different lighting settings of these two screens. So tell me about that. How, what advice would you give to someone thinking about this, about how to deal with the lighting in the rooms that are going to be used?
Yeah. Well, I think it's one of those things where if you get to start from scratch, design the room for video conferencing. If it's retrofitting a room, you need to be aware. If you're looking at the differences on this recording between Heather's environment and mine's a little darker in the face, and the room doesn't quite have the right lighting. And I've got a great view out the window of the trees and of a wetlands area, but I have to keep the blinds closed because it's too bright behind me. Think of it when you take pictures. It's the same type of deal. You want the lighting to light your subjects, not be behind them, because it affects the camera's ability to focus or take that light in. Mm-hmm. So in general, you want to be able to light the face of the people that you're going to be recording. So there's different lighting technologies out there that will be used for video and can direct the light towards the face of the people that are being recorded a little bit more. Mm-hmm. And the colors help. The color that you have behind you is a lot more subtle than the darkening colors that are behind me.
Sure. What other advice would you give to a peer that was thinking about doing this in their own educational environment? I mean, any other tips that you'd like to share if someone's thinking about doing this on their own?
One would be to get a champion. You could be the champion, but make sure you're getting people in that are going to be the users. The technology is cool, the technology is fun, but most users of any environment, be it using email or using the video systems, they have a job to do, and that's what they know how to do. And all of this is just a tool or a medium of transferring something, whether it's email or our video signal to another location. So you need to try to make sure the system is going to be really user-friendly, unobtrusive, doesn't get in the way. So if you can get a champion that can help you figure out what is that going to take in your environment to get people to adopt it and look at it more from the user side than necessarily the technology side. With that said, though, we played around with a couple different vendors out there, and the LifeSize was the easiest for us to use and easiest to adopt for people, and easy to implement. So I know others are out there. They probably work great as well. Out of the few that we played with, this was the easiest to use, and that's really the whole point of the system, is not have it be a video conferencing system. Have it be where you and I can sit down and have a conversation.
Just like this.
You're sitting exactly.
Well, thank you for your time. Thank you for joining us from my birth state of Minnesota. And thanks to all of our viewers for watching Best in UC TV. Until we meet again, I'm Heather Clancy.